Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pearson, Clarke, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my film and photography work. I was born and raised in Trinidad and moved here when I was 19. And Megan made a reference earlier about this idea that black people would turn white when they were moved out in the sun, and it made me think of my first winter, one of the many unexpected shocks of migration. Anyway. So my background is in psychology and social work. That was my first career, and I came to filmmaking through my involvement as a volunteer in Artists Run Culture in Toronto, primarily through the Inside Out Toronto LGBT Film Festival, and that kind of operated as my film school and inspired me to pick up a camera. And this piece I made in residency at Trinity Square Video, and it was a reflection on my blackness and my queerness and my masculinity. The way that those things intersect, and the ways that straight black men are the only group that don't see all of that, and often read me as a straight woman, and that leads to some interesting interactions. So it's a reflection on my commonality with them in terms of both of us having black masculinity, but also the ways that my queerness is often invisible in those spaces. The 5 years following making that work was a period for me of a lot of personal loss, and I think that it definitely shaped my approach to the work that I'm making now, and my decision to go back to school and pursue an MFA and finally think of myself as an artist. So my recent work and where I'm going, I think a lot of my work has to do with grief and with loss and with vulnerability. This is a series I did for the Feminist Art Gallery. Invited some artists to participate in a workshop called the Axe Grinding Workshop that was held at the Tate Modern in London in 2012. And so I asked 10 black women involved in the arts to share with me what was their axe to grind. And this was a series that I shared at that. Samantha Blanchett, a photographer in her own right. And this is a web-based video series that I participated in. It's hosted by Dana McLeod, who's a Montreal-based performance and video artist. And this is called 52 Pickup Videos. You make one video a week for a year. And I made my first video on the first anniversary of my mother's death. And these 52 videos for me really, some of them stand alone, but really they operate together as a sort of diary and a sort of elegy for the toughest year. This is our ongoing series called It's Good to Be Needed. And this was a question for me around what would performing intimacy between people who are estranged act as a type of resolution. So in this series, I work with queer-identified women who are ex-partners, who are currently not friends. And for those of you who are familiar with queer communities, it's very common for lesbians to be friends with their exes. And the title makes reference to that. I think partly that's because we are a minority community and we need harmony. We need each other to continue to be friends so that we can continue to share the few spaces that we share and sit around a table at a dinner party, things like that. So I invite these women to participate in a moment of shared intimacy. And there's a lot of negotiation and facilitation that takes place before we get to this point. So it's sort of a part performance, part documentary photography project. And so I invite them to hold hands and I document that moment. And finally, this is a series I just started as part of my MFA project. And I'm really interested in this idea of diversity. In Toronto, it's the word that we most identify with this city, and it's a word that we use as always in a positive context. The city's sort of slogan, diversity our strength. But those of us who make this place diverse, we come from somewhere else. So half of the population of this city is foreign born. And I'm interested in the idea of what does it mean to live in a place where half the population deals with displacement, homesickness, and as those of us who experience that know that is a lifetime experience, that is an ongoing thing. And so that interest led me to exploring roti shops as a space of nostalgia, as a space for homesickness, as a space that stands in for Trinidad. It's really interesting. You just Google homesick Trini and you'll find out Yelp reviews for roti shops or some desperate Trini in Austin where, you know, like, is there roti? I need a roti. So, as a queer person, the other thing that happens to me is those spaces, they act as a site of nostalgia and comfort, but they also replicate that tension that I feel as a queer person when I go home. So there is this tension of longing and belonging in these spaces. And finally, just for my thesis project, I'm also going to be looking at, I'm exploring using reenactment and looking at the eulogy. I think for queer people of color, we get told, and our families get told, that our only choice is homophobia. Families, black and brown families, get taught that they should be homophobic, that we are homophobic, that we are the most homophobic. And I think that my grief and other queer people of color like myself who have lost a parent, our grief is testament to another way of thinking about that. It is a testament to the love that many of us do have. And so that's what I'll be focusing on for my next project. Thank you.